as an attorney, Thomas took on several cases of enslaved people seeking freedom. He even waived his fee and took on the cases for free. And if the enslaved person lost the case, Thomas would give them money, which would then help them escape from their owners. And so much of his career is dedicated to the abolition of slavery. Now great, we love that. Now it's weird because Thomas Jefferson was the founding father who, he owned the most enslaved people. Make it make sense, right? I mean, at one point, he owned over 600 people. 600 people. And many of those people were just whole families. Yeah, Anyways, one of those families, the Hemmings, were about to become one of the names associated with Thomas Jefferson forever. Martha's father, John Wales, had several children with an enslaved woman named Betty Hemmings, which it wasn't an unusual thing back then. Sadly, enslaved people had no way of refusing advances, or let's just say it, assaults, rape from their owners. And sadly, when the Hemmings were inherited by Thomas Jefferson, that didn't stop. Thomas at one point was the minister of France to the United States, and he even lived in Paris for years. So he ends up taking one of the Hemmings' kids, James, who was a teenager at the time. He takes him with him to France to be his butler. Thomas wanted James to learn the art of French cooking because, again, he's a foodie and he was obsessed with French food. He wanted to be able to enjoy it when he got back home to America. So he told James if he learned how to make French food and then could teach it to the chef at home, he would free him. Thomas got his wish, and a bunch of foods we know today, like French fries, became popular in America because of this deal. But the most famous thing Thomas was known for had nothing to do with food. A few years later, his daughter's nanny, her name is Sally Hemmings, joined them in France. Not long after they got there, Thomas and Sally started having a sexual relationship. Now, I hate to call it a relationship or an affair for two reasons. One, Sally was Thomas's property, and like we said earlier, she didn't really have a choice to say yes or no. And two, when Thomas got together with Sally, he was 44 and Sally was 14. Yeah. There are not many details about when or how it all got started, but we do know Sally was kind of like a nanny to Thomas's daughters. She would take care of them and help them get dressed and all of that, and she was also a maid in the household. The sexual relationship between Thomas and Sally carried on for most of the 5 years that Thomas was in France. And just before the whole Jefferson family was about to pack up and head back to America, Sally revealed that she was pregnant with Thomas's child. Now, if you've been paying attention, you'll remember I said Thomas Jefferson's father-in-law was Sally Hemmings' father. I need a little chart, don't I? With a laser pointer. Wouldn't that be fun? Let me know if I should do that down below. That means that Sally and Thomas's wife, Martha, were half-siblings. Sally and Martha were half-siblings. Got it? Okay, great. Which is kind of wild. Yeah. Sorry. I'm putting the pieces together right now, and I'm yeah, that is wild. So Sally ended up negotiating with Thomas, saying hey, listen, you have to promise me to free our child once they turn 18, okay? Or I ain't coming back, bitch. Which, essentially at this time, to make demands as a young teenager to your boss who impregnated you, that was very, very brave of her. Once they returned to America, the baby sadly passed away, but Sally went on to have 6 of Thomas's children. 4 of them survived to adulthood, and eventually, it seems like Thomas did end up keeping his promise because he did free all 4 of the children he had with her, which is the bare minimum, but Now Sally never left Thomas's side, and she lived in a wing of his infamous estate, Monticello. Plantation owners impregnating enslaved women wasn't unusual back then, which is so sad, right? Oh my God. To high society, it was kind of like a secret that people just did not talk about. It was just something that they kept behind closed doors. Death to all of them, the people who were raping the women. Well, I mean, those doors were blown wide open when Thomas ran for president against John Adams.